Hello and welcome to my review of Super Monkey Ball for the GameCube. Some of you might have noticed that I've already reviewed Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD and Super Monkey Ball Deluxe already on the channel, so why would I be wanting to take a look at this? After all, Super Monkey Ball Deluxe is both Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, but in one package. But, after delving a little bit deeper into the series, it turns out that Deluxe might not be as good as it first seems. Before we get into the reasons as to why that is though, let me first give you some background information. Super Monkey Ball actually technically isn't the first game in the series, with the first being an arcade game simply titled Monkey Ball, which was released in 2001. This arcade game features mostly all the same levels from Super Monkey Ball, which was released a few months after the arcade version as a GameCube launch title. Super Monkey Ball was developed by Amusement Vision, who also developed the original arcade game, and it was massively successful, both commercially and critically. The director and producer of the GameCube Super Monkey Ball games, Toshihiro Nagoshi, later went on to direct another hugely popular Sega property, the Yakuza series, so this guy has quite a game library under his belt. The story of Super Monkey Ball is literally non-existent. There's no story whatsoever unless you count the Japanese version of the game, which gives you a slight bit of context, stating that Gongon, the leader of the gorillas, invades the monkey's home to take all of the bananas. Ai, the main protagonist of the game, learns of a paradise called Banana Island, and to get there uses a magical spell which creates a ball around him, and he heads through the mazes in the game to find the elusive Banana Island. I'm not 100% sure that this story is still canon anymore. After all, in the later games, Gongon is never implied to have been evil, and this isn't mentioned in the European or American versions of the game either. Still, it's interesting to know that at some point there was some context as to what was going on in the game. Everybody probably knows how Super Monkey Ball works at this point, but to break it down quickly, you basically go through a series of obstacle courses trying to do them as quickly as possible, and while collecting bananas for extra lives. You move by tilting the stage with the left analog stick, rather than controlling the monkeys themselves, which at first could look a little bit weird and off-putting, but after a couple of stages, it feels completely natural. This gameplay breakdown probably makes the game seem easy, but it actually has a huge learning curve, being one of those games that's easy to pick up and play, but hard to master. At first you'll find yourself taking things slow and maybe struggling with certain levels that have narrow ledges or more complex gimmicks. However, if you keep playing, you'll eventually discover tricks which can allow you to complete the levels much more efficiently. And this is one of the aspects of the game that I find so addictive. Literally every single time I play this game, I find myself attempting more risky strategies to complete levels faster and beat my high score. And this constant improvement and the feeling of discovery when you spot an area where you could potentially skip a section of a level gives this game a huge amount of replay value. However, the difficulty of the game isn't just in pulling off the risky strategies. Even taking things slow and just trying to get through the levels without losing all of your continues can be extremely difficult. At the time that I'm recording this, I've actually never even completed the expert mode of the game because it gets that hard. But I guarantee that I will beat this mode eventually because I've been playing this game a lot recently. Even when the game is at its most difficult though, it never feels frustrating and you always want to go back and give it another go. And I think the reason for this is the constant feeling of reward and satisfaction the game gives you. Not only does it do this in the way that you'll be getting genuinely better at the game with each play session, but you also earn a sort of in-game currency called play points with each go you have at the main mode of the game. These play points can be spent on unlocking 3 minigames, and after unlocking these, they'll be spent on extra continues, effectively giving you more lives so that you can get further into the harder difficulties without having to start from the beginning. This is an amazing idea because even if you aren't the best at the game, with these added continues being earned by practicing, your odds of getting further on your next attempt massively increase because not only are you earning these points by playing the game and improving your skills, but you're also getting the extra help of earning more continues too. It's just straight up fantastic design. I've been going on about the difficulty of this game for quite a while now, but I wouldn't let that put you off. After all, there are the beginner and advanced difficulties, which are much easier than the expert difficulty, and are still a ton of fun too. The level design in Super Monkey Ball is absolute top quality. Every single level feels distinctly different to the last and tests you in brand new ways. Some test your balance, some are about accuracy, some are about timing, and some are just huge obstacle courses with more unique gimmicks, like maybe having to bump yourself over small walls or across gaps. The visual variety within the levels is amazing too. Every 5 levels or so, the theming will completely change along with the music, so you'll constantly be transported to different feeling locations, which keeps the game fresh. The actual graphical quality is incredible too. Sure, it's a relatively simple looking game on the surface, but some of the detail in these simplistic levels takes things up a notch. One detail that I really like is the reflections on the floor on all the different textures you come across, which would have been mind-blowing at the time and showcased what the GameCube was capable of. The animations of the playable monkeys as they run in the balls, or start falling over if you're going too fast, or struggle to keep the balance if you're teetering on a platform edge, is delightful, and the different sound effects each monkey makes adds to their personalities too. That's another thing. Adding to the replay value is the fact that you can try playing as the 4 different playable characters, who each have unique animations and sound effects, as well as having slightly different stats. Ai is the all-rounder, Mimi is better at handling, Baby is light and falls slower than the other monkeys, giving you more aerial control, and Gongon is heavy, but because of that is easier to control on tight platforms. At this point, it's probably quite clear that I love this game. Despite only having first played it recently, it's quickly become one of my favourite games ever made. But what makes it so much better than Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, the game in the series that I first played as a kid? Well, here's the thing. Super Monkey Ball Deluxe not only has all of the content from Super Monkey Ball 1, but also Super Monkey Ball 2 and some extras on top of that. Therefore, it should be the best game in the entire series, right? But it's not, and the main reason for this is because of the controls. Now, in my review of Deluxe, I stated that the controller doesn't pick up more precise analog stick movements, but it's not too big of a deal because you can still navigate your way around the narrow platforms and ledges. However, after playing the original Super Monkey Ball, I can say with authority that this lack of precise control matters an absolutely massive amount. Levels which were insanely difficult in Deluxe I could blaze through in the original game, and I just can't understate what a massive difference the more precise controls in the original game makes to the overall experience. I can't believe that they even made Deluxe with such bad controls after playing the original game, and it's gone way down in my rankings due to this. It's honestly quite annoying because although I liked Deluxe a lot and it's the game that introduced me to the series, it's just such an inferior version of the game and there's literally no reason to play it over the GameCube titles. It's not even just the controls either, there's also the fact that it doesn't run at 60 frames per second, whereas the original does, and it looks a lot better and plays a lot better because of it. With a game that's literally entirely based around precision, having a high frame rate makes a massive difference to the gameplay because it feels a lot smoother to look at and therefore control. The load-in times in the original game are also so much better, and there's no stuttering when going from level to level, which makes the game feel so much smoother to experience. The load-in times are actually really impressive, literally going from a menu to gameplay in about a second. And there's literally no load in between levels at all, unlike in Deluxe. There's also the fact that everything is unlocked from the start of Deluxe, whereas in the original you have to unlock 3 of the minigames, which I like because it feels a lot more rewarding and doesn't give you too much content from the off. I actually think that the original Super Monkey Ball could have taken this even further and made you unlock the other characters with play points, and potentially even added in skins for the characters which could be unlocked with them too. I mean, there's already variants of the characters wearing different colours for when you play in multiplayer, so why not make these unlockable for single player usage? I also think that play points should have been earned for playing the other modes of the game and not just the main mode. And with more unlockable content, this would have made sense. because I'm guessing the reason they didn't do this was because they didn't want you to unlock everything too quickly. But this wouldn't be a problem if there was more to unlock in the first place. Either way though, the playpoint system is easily better than in Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, where there's nothing in its place and everything is just unlocked from the start. It's almost like, despite having more content, it's more of a shallow experience by not having the small details that the original game had. It's just honestly an inferior version of the game, and you've not properly played Super Monkey Ball if you've only played Deluxe. So we've talked about the main game and how much I enjoy it. The levels are amazing, the controls are phenomenal, the visuals are stunning, and it's extremely rewarding to replay and improve your score. But on top of this, we also have a ton of extra modes too. So let's start by talking about the multiplayer aspects. First of all, you can play the main game in multiplayer by taking it in turns, with one player either completing a level or losing a life, then the next player having a turn. This is such a simple idea, but it actually works really well and is probably the best multiplayer mode in the whole game, even though it's not simultaneous. The reason this works so well is that it adds so much tension when you're competing to do stages the fastest, while knowing that the other player is watching you. But you could also choose to be more cooperative and spur each other on to get past levels that are difficult. It also helps that you have a short break after you've done a difficult level and get some breathing room by doing it in multiplayer. Then we have competition mode, which allows for simultaneous multiplayer action. In this mode you pick up to 5 courses from the main mode, so long as you've unlocked them by reaching them in the main game, and you race each other to the end goal, with you respawning at the start of the level if you fall off the edge. While it's great that there's a mode like this in the game, I can't help but feel a little bit underwhelmed by it. Sure, I'm glad it's there, but I feel like a lot more could have been done with a simultaneous multiplayer mode. Firstly, I think that you should have been able to do more than 5 courses at a time, and you should have also been able to randomise the courses you play on. And secondly, I think the second player should have been able to finish the course after the first person finishes. As it stands, as soon as one player goes through the goal, you move on to the next course, regardless of where the second player is. But the main thing here is that I think it would have probably been better if the split screen mode was structured the same as the main mode. But you're just doing it at the same time. I think that would have been awesome. The complication here with this idea would be what would happen if one player falls off the stage and the other player doesn't. Because while the respawning system works in a race format, it would be unfair to have this in the main game. But I'm sure it would have been fine to just have the stage replay for the second player, but in full screen if the first player completed the course, and then continue with the split screen after the second player has finished the level. What would have been even better than this though is something that I mentioned in my Deluxe review, which is a co-op mode, where maybe the stage has 2 goals and you both have to go through one, and the level could split into 2 paths with different obstacles, and some levels could have switches that open the way forward for the other player, and stuff like that. I think they could do something super interesting with this idea, and it's a shame that it was never implemented. You think we've done with the content here? Nah, we're only just getting started. Outside of the main rolling gameplay, we also have 6 minigames to play, all of which are multiplayer, and all of which are extremely fun too. 3 of these are unlocked with play points, and the other 3 are unlocked from the start, which incentivises playing the main mode over these. But that's not to say that these aren't worth playing in their own right. One minor thing to point out here is that it's weird how these minigames are separated into 2 sections. One being party games, which contain Monkey Race, Monkey Fight and Monkey Target. These are the 3 that are unlocked from the start. And the other 3 are in a separate menu called Minigames, and this contains Monkey Bowling, Monkey Golf and Monkey Billiards. Seems a bit unnecessary to split them up like this, but this is an extremely minor issue really. Plus, it's more than made up for by having this goddamn funky billiards music. Monkey Race is fairly easy to explain. Basically, it's like the main game, only on a race course with Mario Kart style power-ups and weapons, and the objective is to finish a certain number of laps in first place. It's a great distraction, but probably is my least favourite of the minigames. However, that's just subjective, and it does have a lot of depth considering it's just a minigame, offering a one-course mode, Grand Prix mode, and time attack mode. Then there's potentially one of my favourite minigames, Monkey Fight, which is actually a lot better in the original game than it is in Deluxe because of the lack of a charge punch mechanic, which is overpowered and quite unbalanced. Monkey Fight is where you and up to 3 other players have to punch each other off of the stage with oversized boxing gloves while picking up several power-ups which affect your punch in different ways. Monkey Target is probably the most well-known of the Super Monkey Ball minigames, having you roll down a huge hill and go off of a ramp, sending you off into the air, then you can open up your ball and turn it into wings. Having you fly across the sea to targets where you have to time your descent to land on the section of the target which will give you the most points. Just like all of the minigames, this has a surprising amount of depth, having loads of different types of target, different hazards, and a wind meter to consider as you plan your approach. Monkey bowling is fairly standard, think Wii Sports bowling but without motion controls, and you pretty much know what to expect here. Where this game is a bit unique though is in the way it offers a sort of obstacle bowling experience, where the lanes have holes and ramps which make it even more skill based. Monkey Billiards actually kinda took me by surprise because although it's pretty much just like any other snooker or pool style game, it actually works extremely well and I can see a lot of fun being had with this. It's just crazy to think that there are probably full-on snooker games out there that aren't as good as the billiards minigame in Super Monkey Ball. Then finally we have Monkey Golf, which, just like Monkey Bowling, is kinda just like Wii Sports Golf but without motion controls. This is a really good minigame, having quite a big emphasis on being tactical with your different powered clubs, measuring distances, and learning the stage layouts of each course. It's basically virtual mini-golf, and like every other minigame, it has a ton of effort put into it. So much so that it's better than some full-on golf games. Crazy stuff. I absolutely love the passion the developers clearly had for this game when they were making it. Every single element is way better than it needs to be. Even looking at things like the name entry for your high scores where you control your character in a circle arena and have to bop into the letters to spell it out, or the credit sequence which has this really cool minigame where you have to collect loads of bananas while avoiding the names dropping from the sky. It's stuff like this that really brings the whole game up a level. I think that about covers everything the game's got to offer. There's a serious amount of content here, and with the multiplayer elements in both the main game and the minigames, as well as how addictive the main game is to get better at and improve your score, this is an insanely addictive game, and I think I'm going to be going back to it a lot in the future. I'm giving Super Monkey Ball an 8 out of 10. Really, the only thing I think the game could have added to make it substantially better is the co-op split screen mode that I mentioned earlier. Other than that, the only issues I have are so minor that I feel like I'm nitpicking even bringing them up. For example, even though I love unlocking the minigames with play points, I do think unlocking the other characters, character skins, and maybe even different types of ball to roll around in would have given the play points more value and enabled them to be earned by playing the other modes of the game too, rather than just the main mode. I do think it's a little bit weird how the character's stats aren't actually displayed on the character select screen, which has probably led to some people not even knowing that they have different stats. And some people would probably say that there aren't many levels either, having approximately 100 in total, give or take a few. But I really don't think this is an issue because of how tightly designed the levels you do have are. There's so many different shortcuts and alternate level goals you can find, and I never got bored with what content was present. If you're a fan of Super Monkey Ball, or you've just gotten into it with Banana Blitz HD and you haven't played this, you really owe it yourself to try it out. It's way, way better than Banana Blitz HD, and it's even better than Deluxe, which on paper shouldn't be the case. Its visuals are impressive and packed with character, the music is catchy and gives the game a distinct personality, the controls literally couldn't be any better, the game runs at a mostly solid 60 frames per second, and it's just an incredibly creative idea, basically taking Marble Madness, giving it a mascot character, and making it way more modern while giving it a totally different tone. Super Monkey Ball has easily become one of my favourite games ever made, and because of that, it only makes sense for us to start taking a look at other games in the series, starting with Super Monkey Ball 2, the second game released in the series, although I guess technically third if you count the arcade version, but we'll ignore that. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe for more stuff coming soon, and I'll see you next time. Bye!